Hi, I'm Dr. Justin Meier, the Bishop of the Anglican Diocese of the Emmaus Way, part of the family of the Anglican Free Communion, a new and missionary diocese seeking to start new churches and new ministries for the glory of God in the tradition of the Anglican Way. Recently, I've been asked to explain a little bit about our diocese, its vision, and its direction. Well, I want to start off by telling you our diocese receives its name from a bit of scripture found in Luke chapter 24, starting at verse 13, known as the encounter on the way to Emmaus. And in this story, there are disciples walking along, and Jesus comes to them, but they are blinded to see who Jesus is. And as they are walking, they have this discussion with Jesus, and Jesus then reveals what the Old Testament and the prophets were teaching in response to who he was, and through a lens of viewing Jesus as the Messiah. As they continue to walk along, they come to an end, and Jesus acts like he's going to continue walking, and the disciples ask him in. And when they ask him in, he breaks bread with them. And in the breaking of bread, just like he did at Passover, it is revealed to them who he is. And then Jesus disappears from their midst. They say, "Shouldn't we have known who he was?" And they run back to Jerusalem to share with the other apostles and disciples about the message of Jesus. Well, our name comes from that bit of scripture, and we find then what makes us unique by looking at that story. The first thing that we embrace as a diocese as a value is that of being Christocentric, meaning that we read and view scripture through a Christocentric lens, meaning that we try to interpret scripture through the character and the image of Christ. In fact, Colossians chapter 1 tells us that Jesus is the image of the invisible God. Theologian and Pastor Brian Zahn puts it this way: God is like Jesus. He's always been like Jesus. There's never been a time that God has not been like Jesus. We've not always known that God was like Jesus, but now we do. And that changes everything. And so we take a very Christocentric view of the scriptures in our teaching, in our preaching, and in our ways of discipleship. The second thing then that we value as a diocese and as a community of believers following the Anglican way is that we are sacramental, right? Just like Jesus in the Emmaus Way story breaks the bread, and through the breaking of bread reveals himself to these two disciples, we believe that Jesus reveals himself to us and others by the participation in the historical sacraments of the church. The third value that we have as a diocese, and what makes us very unique, is that we are a trauma-informed and resilience-building diocese. Meaning this, that we realize that there is trauma that people have experienced lifelong, or even in some respects daily. And that trauma affects the way they think, it affects the way they act, and it affects their relationship, both with people and with God. And so as a group, we understand what trauma does in the world, and we are a place to help people heal from trauma. One of the very unique things that we have in our diocese is that we have licensed professional counselors who offer free counseling resources to our clergy and their families. And on top of that, we help create systems within churches to help people heal from trauma and embrace therapy and counseling if those individuals in our churches need them. Not therapy by their clergy member, but therapy by professional counselors. Fourth, we are a mission-driven diocese. Yes, we are a missionary diocese, meaning that we plant churches and ministries everywhere. But look at the Emmaus Way story. One of my favorite things is that Jesus and these disciples are breaking bread, having the sacramental experience, not in a temple, not in a synagogue, not in a church, but at an inn. And as a diocese, we are going to strive to plant all kinds of churches and all kinds of ministries for all kinds of people. So you may see some of our churches in pubs. You may see some of our churches in apartment complexes. You may see some of our churches in nursing homes. You may see some of our churches in community buildings. And you will definitely see some of our churches in what are known as traditional church buildings. But we don't believe that the gospel is limited to church buildings. And we don't believe the presence of the church is limited to buildings with steeples and crosses in them. And so as a diocese, we are going to plant churches wherever and whenever we can, along with partnering ministries. And then finally, we are a community. Our last value that I want to emphasize for us is that we are a community. We aren't just autonomous churches doing our own thing, but that we are a family and a community of believers and ministries and churches working together. And when one of us suffers, all of us suffer. When one of us rejoices, we all rejoice. We are in the business of staying connected because together we are stronger than when we are apart. And so I hope that this has helped define a little bit about the Diocese of the Emmaus Way. And I can't wait to share more with you about the greater tribe that we belong to, the Anglican Free Communion International. But no matter wherever you are or your place in life right now, we in the Diocese of the Emmaus Way know at least one thing, that no matter what, wherever you are, whoever you are, God is doing something in your life at this moment right now to help you become everything that He's created you to be. God bless.